Now we're going to further extend the service console by getting into custom components. And so one thing you'll notice if you try to edit the layout here from the Force.com menu item, I can't quite get to it here in my display. You can toggle the interaction log, which we created previously, up and down, or resizing it even. But here's this down arrow that appears when I hover over near the line. I'm going to click on that, and then I can turn it back on by hovering down at the bottom and clicking to bring it back up. So that's how you can show and hide interaction log quickly. But if I edit the layout and then we click on custom console components, it's right up above the layout properties that we were in previously for the page layout. And so if we click on custom console components, that brings up the case layout console components page, and we're going to add a component to the right sidebar. Now we're going to specify a width in pixels of, let's just say 200 pixels. And you could do percentage instead if you want for width. Then for the action type for this console component, I'm going to select a lookup, and then I'm going to select a contact name for the lookup field. I'm going to enable linking, which lets users associate a record with this field. And then we're going to do a create action and make that available so they can create a new contact from this component. And then we're going to label this contact, and then let's go ahead and click save before we add anything else to avoid complicating things. And I'm going to click save on the page layout. Now if we go into a case, we have our custom console component here. We have the contact that's associated with this case here in the component, and then we've got the view link here, and if we click on that, that brings us to their contact record. This just provides greater functionality in the console, and you can customize this as needed. This is an example that you may or may not find helpful. You can unlink someone from a case, for example. And then let's go back into the case. I'm in the case details, and let's edit the layout. And let's say that's not the greatest use of a custom console component, for example. So you can remove that by clicking remove, and then you could add different ones, such as, let's say we want to add some related lists. This may be a little more helpful and something you more commonly use. You may want to add related lists in this component for like activity history and any open activities and case comments, for example. So let's make this width 150 pixels as well. Click save, and then save on the page layout, and we'll go back to a case. And so we're still on this old case here. Let's close this out, and let's go to a different case just to make sure we don't have anything weird in memory. So here we've got the components with these different related lists, and it may provide you with greater functionality than these related list links here, because it provides you with the ability to quickly create a new task without having to like scroll down and find the related list. Add case comments, for example. And so one of the main things to bear in mind as well as we go back into the edit layout for these custom console components is that you can do these in the right or left sidebar. As well, you can do a top sidebar if you turn off the highlights panel. It's turned on right now, so we've got to turn that off in order to do a top sidebar. You could do a bottom sidebar if you turn off the interaction log. You can't have both at the same time. Then you can have as well subtab components, which kind of are these inner components. So they could even be like to the side of the right or the left components, for example. And then you've got some top sidebars and bottom sidebars. So this bottom sidebar would appear above the interaction log in this example. So we could do either stack or tabs for the style, and we could do an action. So I could, for example, try my lookup here at the bottom, and let's do contact. Kind of running out of screen real estate here. So when you're done with all of those, you can go back up to the top and click save. So these give you a lot of options though as far as placement, and you see in all these different options that you want large monitors or multiple monitors in a support environment. And so after we click save, I've got an error somewhere. I've got to set a height on these tabs, so I'm going to do a height in pixels of 100 here, and then click save, and then we should be returned to the page layout, which we are. Click save for that. I'm not sure if you have to click save at that point for this, or if the components will just automatically and magically refresh. I'm going to close out this in order to get a new view, and now we've got our contact tab, which isn't terribly usable. This is getting kind of cluttered, but we can scroll down. I probably need to give it more height. So let me unlink this contact, show you what that looks like. So there's no contact that's linked. And that's what reveals the search functionality with the contact. And so I could do a search then and link a different contact with this case. And so I'm in United Oil and Gas. And so I could click View, and this opens up in a different tab the view on the account, and I can see the different contacts. And so I could associate Liz, for example. So if I go back to details here, I'm going to search for Liz in my contact search and pull her up. Now, one thing I specified in that component is I enabled them to create a new contact. So the idea behind this is similar to the quick create functionality. If you're familiar with that from the admin exam, is that when you do a search, if you're not finding who you're looking for, you could do a quick create here and create a new contact record. And so, for example, here's my new contact. Now, ideally, you would have this height be higher. This is not the greatest example, but you get the point. So I'm going to create a new contact record here. We'll just call him Bob Jones, fake email address, phone number, and then with the account name, ideally you'd want to associate this with the same account that you're working this case with. And so I'm going to do United Oil and Gas Corp. And this is actually Singapore, so I'm going to pull up the search again and pull up Singapore instead. And so I'm not going to enter in a title. I'm going to click Save to create the new contact record, and that links a different contact with the account, which is here. So you can see through the use of these components, it gives you some great functionality here. So I'm going to turn the interaction log back on by toggling this button, and you see that this component just pushes up. This was a subtab component or inner component or whatever you want to call it. So now that we've looked at not only the interaction log, but now have created some custom console components, we're next going to get into console keyboard shortcuts.